I was able to learn that, right, in sales, the best skills you possibly can have is to listen. And because if you actually ask questions and hear what's going on, you hear what's going on in a problem scenario in somebody's life. And I just became a problem solver. And I feel like that's the number one key to sales. And all of us are salesmen. I don't care what industry you're in, what entrepreneur your scenario is. You are the greatest salesman for your business. End of story. And if you're not, gotta change your mindset.
Hi, welcome to the Flat Bill Investors Podcast. I'm Josh Zaglaski.
And I'm Zach Spencer. Welcome. Hey, Josh, another glorious Tuesday afternoon to be sitting with you. We are super excited to have a female guest today. A couple of things you may not know about her is that she didn't learn to read till she was 12. We might get a little bit of that story.
Read and write.
Read and write, which is crazy to live right here in Utah. But we'll get into that a little bit maybe. She's been in sales for 19 years, which is also impressive. Gone through the works. And started at Vivint and has done a lot of door-to-door sales and now is doing lots and lots of great things in the entrepreneurial and sales space. Josh, we have Maeli Nelson. Welcome, Maeli.
Hey, thanks for having
welcome.
me.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for being here. Let's get right into it. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. Tell us a little bit about just your background going up. I know I kind of alluded to that a little bit, but we'll just start.
Everyone's wondering the first 12 years.
What happened the first 12 years of not reading? What the heck? What is that even? What is that about? So yeah, give us a quick rundown of that.
Yeah, I just grew up in an odd religious, I call it a cult, but religion where people and or the men in the religion felt like women shouldn't learn how to read, write, of any arithmetic of any kind. And so even though my job was to cook and clean, don't you think you know how to do measuring with math?
Yeah. How did you?
You would think.
Did you just measure with your heart, or did you just know?
Yeah, it was like memorizing. Just like that's the amount. Like there wasn't even.
That's a spoonful.
It's a spoonful. Yeah, it was like the most weird
This one
way.
takes 4 spoonfuls.
Yeah,
it
was so bizarre. But one day, so the Sarah is the first wife, not her name. She came back. So I have 22 siblings. I have 5 mothers.
Yeah.
And she would always leave and come back with like supplies and stuff. And unfortunately, one day she just didn't come back. And it was like, oh, you know.
How old were you at the time?
I was 11.
Oh, wow.
And my mom was the second wife. And so inside the religion, it was like, oh, you're now able to become the Sarah, right? The first wife.
Oh, yeah.
And so there was like this whole ceremony and the prophet came down. And it was like the whole family congregation was sitting there. And my mom was supposed to be like ordained or whatever, right? Christened. I don't know. And unfortunately, the prophet was like, I had a revelation. You're not worthy. And told my mom that because she didn't have a son, she wasn't worthy enough to become the Sarah.
So he skipped her, huh?
And he chose. The revelation said that the 18-year-old wife was the one that was supposed to become, the Sarah.
Where was she in line? Because you said there's 5.
Yeah, she was the 4th wife.
Oh, so second and third got skipped.
Second and
That's too
third
bad.
got skipped. I'm almost
Maybe
like
a blessing in
36.
disguise, it sounds like.
Who knows?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, because this leads to
This leads to we out.
Because what happened?
That night, she literally was like freaking out and she picked up her stuff and we left. And all I kept hearing was, I can't believe I let somebody tell me my worth. And more importantly, I can't believe I let somebody tell me your worth.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like this whole uproar.
That's profound.
Yeah. And then in the middle of the night, like 1 a.m., we packed up our crap and we walked.
Who's we? So you and you said 22 siblings. How many other siblings?
Just my mom and I.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So we left at like 1 a.m. And, and this is why it was so impressive, was because she left with no money, no credit, nothing to her name. And she just kept saying, like, I would rather sleep on the freaking dirt than to have somebody tell me your worth. I was just like,
that's pretty cool.
So I've heard a little bit of the story before, but as you're saying this right now, I don't know if it's too deep a question.
No,
you're okay to say no.
Yeah.
But like that night, like that day, like where did you sleep?
Ground on the dirt.
Oh,
that's why she would say it.
Oh,
I would rather sleep on the dirt.
You were just homeless for a while.
Yeah, but we lived in a bus for a while, which was cool. It was different, and I thought it was awesome.
It's a cheap hotel.
Yeah. But then she got a job, or how did you guys kind of come out of that?
Where does she come from as far as her family?
She lived in Salt Lake, so she was raised LDS. so Mormon. And
she wasn't born there. Oh, okay.
wasn't.
So she kind of eventually migrated back to family, I assume, or maybe not?
But the problem is in those cults, those religions, they're so psychologically.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my gosh, right? And so like they convinced her that she couldn't have relationships with her family. They convinced her like all sorts of crazy things. And so she disowned all of her family.
Yeah.
And then therefore the family disowned her.
Yeah.
And so she really had no family for a while. They did obviously come around eventually. And whatnot,
Yeah, that's wild.
Blood's thicker than water.
Yeah.
I want to ask a lot of questions, but
Only so much time.
Yeah. So like Zach was saying, you eventually, took a bus, and then where did you guys end up staying where she ended up finding work and,
so
putting food on the table?
George. Yeah. We lived in St. George for the most part, most of my life. So my first year in school was 6th grade at the Woodward Center. Actually, I don't know if you ever heard of that one, but I was the first year that they turned it into a 6th grade center. And that was cool. I mean, it was bizarre because I was literally like being dropped from a planet, just like what's happening? I have no idea.
Was it hard to learn how to read? I mean,
all of it.
So you just had no books, no anything growing up?
Nope, nothing.
Tara and I we somewhat fostered a girl. It was a relative of hers at the age of like 5 or 6. And even then I thought it was young because my son was the same age. And we remember showing her like pictures, not pictures, but colors. And when we popped up red, she said that color was blood. It wasn't red, Oh, we're like, crazy. Whoa, she's behind. So I can imagine at 12, question from 0 to 11 or 12, like, were you guys just playing all the time or was there like no school? Because, you weren't learning, right? Wow. It's crazy.
No, I mean, I took care of kids, I cleaned, so I had my fiduciary duties of like being a woman. And honestly, by the time I was 11, I was already betrothed or whatever to, like, I already knew who I was supposed to be married to. I mean, I saw 12 of my siblings already get married off by, 15. So I already knew like where I was heading. There was really no question.
Yeah.
You're like, thank you. That is not my life.
It's not my life.
Yeah.
And I still have a lot of siblings that are, a part of it. And so that's also interesting to kind of let them do their own life and recognize that everyone can choose where they want to be. And you can't save anyone. You can't think that you're saving someone because they don't necessarily want to be saved. Like they are happy. So who am I to say that they're not happy? Well, I definitely played that card and was like, save I went on kind of a binge for that. But truthfully, I think everyone was supposed to be where they are. And all of us have to go through. I look back and I love this quote from Steve Jobs. You'll never know why you went through something until you look back and connect the dots. You can never look and connect the dots forward.
So from 12 to, he mentioned that you started with Vivint, but during that time, like what was kind of your story through junior high school, from then on until you got to Vivint?
Yeah, I actually had a teacher kind of take me under his wings in 6th grade and was like, what planet did you get dropped from? Like, you psycho person. Like, who are you? I'm like, told him a little bit of my story. He felt bad for me. And so he took me under his wings. And honestly, every day after school for like 3-4 hours, he would just
kind of help you. Yeah. That's cool.
Those are true teachers. That's awesome.
Seriously amazing for the most part. We won't go into that side of it. But
that's good. Yeah, it's hard.
I would say that it was overall a really good thing. And I did learn the power of learning. So I actually learned differently than everyone else. And because of it, though, I think I developed this love to learn rather than like my kids. They're spoiled little poops, right? And it's like, I have to go to school. And it's like, no, you get to. You get to go to school. And I still don't have, like, I love learning. And I spend thousands of dollars every year on another program, another scenario to learn something in the industry to become my very best. Like I'm such an avid learner. And I think that's missing in our industry as far as like to become an expert. It's like, oh, I read a book or, oh, I went to this one seminar. And it's like, oh.
Yeah. I try to teach my kids that. So one of my good friends, his name's Steve Trang. He's out of Phoenix. I've been on his podcast and stuff. And the one thing that we talked about in the green room that I end up talking about on his podcast is my quick story about my own son. He's now 18, senior. But when he was about 15, he says, Dad, I don't want to go to college. And I have a college degree. So like, I understand a little bit. I didn't respond yet, but it kind of pierced my heart a little bit.
Yeah. You're like, what?
But I also know the ROI on college has gone down the last 20 years, right? Yeah. So I'm like, okay, so
depending on what field you think you're going to go to, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So it took me about 2-3 days to like really kind of ponder that. And then I thought, you know what? that's what we've been saying, the word college. The college is that bad word.
Yeah.
So now in our household, we say education.
Yep.
Yeah.
What education are you planning on,
Yes.
doing after high school? And that kind of jarred his brain a little bit.
Yeah.
2-3 months go by and he's like, Dad, I want to go to Utah Tech. Well, that's a college.
Yeah.
But he wasn't
Don't
thinking
say
that.
the bad word.
So we don't use college. We just say your education. He doesn't want to go to Utah
So
Tech anymore.
interesting that
But
there's
now
a
he wants.
stigma with college,
He's always
yeah.
talking about like, Dad, I want to do this education, this education, this education. He has like 2 or 3 things planned.
Yeah.
Right when he gets done with high school in a couple of weeks. Now my kids are always talking about the education. Granted, even the younger kids, they kind of say, well, I'm not getting a lot of education in junior high right now. There's a lot of learning things with their deadlines, just different things.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and even the social aspect of being in school.
Yeah.
Things like that.
That's what I think
As
too.
a
You
young
just finish
adult.
what you start.
Yeah,
That's a good lesson too.
Yep. Which is funny because the other day Grayson did. So my son Grayson's 8, and he did tell me. He said, "Dad, I think I can drop out of school." And I said, "What? Really?" I said, "When?" I said, "When are you thinking?" And he goes, "Like pretty soon." He goes, "I'll just probably stream. I'll stream on Twitch and YouTube, and I'll just be a streamer. And I probably don't need school because we don't even learn about streaming in school." And I was
A lot of boys start talking like that.
I was like, "You're in 2nd grade, so you wouldn't be learning about
At one
streaming
time,
very much."
my 15-year-old, do you want to be a professional Fortnite player?
Yeah,
So-
that was that
because
was
there
it.
was one guy that makes $1 million a year.
Yep.
So
So I told him, I said, dropping out of school is pretty crazy in 2nd grade, but we can talk about it.
I
So
always
anyway,
tell
it was
him, like,
just
there's millions of players. There's one guy, maybe
One-
two,
the one.
that makes $1 million a
Yeah.
year.
This is the problem in my household though. So I have a 13-year-old and my husband's best friend is one of those guys.
Yeah.
That makes
Oh, no,
millions
yeah. So there you go.
of playing
So
rights,
you're-
and it's like, this isn't fair. This
Yeah.
is a terrible example.
Terrible example.
is
No,
terrible.
it's okay. That's funny. But anyway,
Yeah.
at 8, he was like, I'll just drop out and
Yeah.
stream.
Yeah.
I was like, well, maybe someday that'll be a good way, but today
Yeah.
you're going to go to school, bud.
Yeah, yeah.
So I always think he was trying to stay home and miss school for the day, but I can kind of see how some of that ties into probably your natural propensity towards salesmanship
Yeah.
and
Yep.
trying to like do what it takes to like earn a living.
Right.
As I've just been hearing you, I'm like, man, I think that probably would shape a lot of what now is kind of part of your
Yeah, like prove them wrong, right? Like that. I feel like I interview a lot of entrepreneurs, and that's kind of always a little bit. Most I feel like have this little like
little bit chip on your shoulder, like
I'm going to show them. I'm going to prove them wrong. Shut up checks or whatever you need to do. But
shut up checks. I've
shut up
not
checks is
heard
what
of
I
those.
call it.
That's
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Shut up
you
checks.
I've had
You
some
don't
shut
think
up
I can?
checks.
Yeah, there you go.
I've called them shut up checks for years too.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, shut up checks. It was interesting too because in middle school you're so weird, right? You're so
Yeah, everybody's a little awkward.
everyone's weird. So I was like next level weird, right? Like it was so bad trying to find my bearing. But I did learn something really powerful that I didn't know was powerful during the time. Obviously, I just thought I was weird and didn't have friends. But I learned that if I just kind of hung out and just listened and didn't speak. So I really didn't speak much in high school or even in middle school. I just was pretty silent.
Which is hard to
Interesting.
think about because
Yeah,
I've met you
it's
enough times
interesting 'cause I'm-
to think about you not talking is actually kind of that's the odd thing here.
True. But I was able to learn that, right, in sales, the best skills you possibly can have is to listen. And because if you actually ask questions and hear what's going on, you hear what's going on in a problem scenario in somebody's life. And I just became a problem solver. And I feel like that's the number one key to sales. And all of us are salesmen. I don't care what industry you're in, what entrepreneur your scenario is. You are the greatest salesman for your business. End of story. And if you're not, got to change your mindset. I think that was probably something that I think pushed me ahead of a lot of people. And even in the door-to-door world was that I could just listen.
It's funny you say that. So my very first mentor, I was 23 when I got into real estate. So it's 22 years ago. And his name's Jeff Rappaport. He used to live here in the Wasatch Front. Now he just moved
So
to
do you know
Arizona.
Jeff?
I've heard of
chance?
him. Yeah.
Yeah. And now he's actually a member of the commercial group I've been telling about for a few years. And so we actually made the connection where I still tell people to this day, there's a couple things I always learned. Number one, when I was 23, I had my pen and paper ready, just taking all these notes. And someone asked in our class, it was like kind of a mentorship that was like $7,500. There's probably like 20 of us, but someone says, what's the secret to be successful in real estate? And he sat there for a second. He goes, you guys want to know the secret? Do you guys have your pen and paper ready? I remember like, oh my gosh, he's going to tell us the secret. He goes, it's 2 words, problem solving.
Yep.
And he goes, if you can become a good problem solver, whether it's real estate or business, you'll become successful. And I remember thinking like, okay, I got to become a good problem solver.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes my wife to this day is like, I'm listening to her. It's almost like the nail in the head. Like, quit trying to solve my problem right now. I just need you to listen. I'm
I was going to say that. Yeah. In business, yes. Amazing. Amazing.
Okay.
In your relationship, maybe not so amazing. What's that?
And that is, right? Yeah. And my kids will actually always say that. They're like, Mom, stop talking to me like I'm one of your clients. I'm like, I just interrogate them.
I know.
Like,
I've had to, we've done really well with that for our own marriage, but business, like that's a must, you know? And it's funny because we've said this on our podcast is like the things I want my boys to learn now that they're kind of transitioning because of the oldest of the girls is in the business is number one, I want them to understand what rejection feels like, you know, and they felt it, but when you're in business and you're getting no's, but you're like telling yourself like glass is half full. I want to keep going, you know? Yeah. But the other part is like, how are you going to solve that problem? Yeah. You know, and I know they're going to be calling me like, Dad, I got this problem. Well, how are you going to solve it? Yeah. I already know like the whole, it's almost like I already know the 30-minute call. Yeah, you already know. Because I want to teach.
I don't even know where I heard this, but it's something that we've implemented inside of our pickleball gym with our employees is, and really as I'm saying that, I'm like, I ought to do better. So even as I'm saying that, I'm like, okay, am I really implementing this enough? Concept of the 1-3-1. Which I'll have to see where I found it, but it is awesome. Where if you have one problem, you say, hey, you come back to me with 3 solutions. And then out of those 3 solutions, what would you choose? And typically by the time that the person you're having bring those 3 solutions brings you the 3, they already know the one. They go, yeah, these 2 are dumb. This one is the one we should go with. But it just helps kind of give a framework to be critically thinking of problem solving. It's rather than just really quickly calling or saying, hey, yeah, we have this issue. It's like, okay, what are the 3 things you would do to solve it? And giving them, again, that framework really helps break that into like, okay, I'll try to solve it before I call my manager, before I just call the owners or before I call.
Without even complaining, right?
Yeah, it becomes a complaint.
And it's like, that's not helpful.
So anyway.
Anything.
So would you say listening is like, because we were talking about superpowers. What would you say your superpower is?
Yeah, I would say listening.
Listening?
Yeah. I can, within minutes of talking to someone, I feel like I have an idea, right? We call it smoke screens when people just lie to you, which,
right? Of course, in sales.
That's my primary business, right? Is in real estate. And gosh, they just lie to you. I mean, it is just, even in door-to-door sales in general, right? Like the first 20 minutes.
I would say door-to-door more than real estate for sure.
I lied a lot of people at the door. They knock on my door,
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm moving, I'm renting, I'm out of town, like I'm leaving.
Oh, yeah. And they've heard every, and I know it too, as I'm like, okay, what's a good one that's like, I can get this just off the step. Sometimes I'm just like, laugh. Hey, you know what? I already have it. I'm just not interested. You know, but then, so there's sometimes, you know, like, I'm like, yeah, actually, I do need a new pest control person or whatever, you know? So
they might have just hit you on the right day, but other than that, it is smoke screens. So anyway,
so smoke screens. But I feel like I have, because I can ask good questions, and that's key too, right? Is learning to ask really good questions that can help you identify if it is a smoke screen and if you actually can solve a problem. And then next, being able to say next is so powerful. I feel like so often as an entrepreneur, we get so hung up on leads. And lead gen is going to be the bane of all of our existence. I don't care what industry you're in.
Everyone.
Finding leads, finding the right qualified leads, qualifying leads. Like, and there's so much, you know, drama around how you can qualify leads.
Sure.
And, you know, there's so much to it that it's like, well, at the end of the day, you have to be able to ask the right questions to quickly decide if this is a right fit for either of you.
Yeah.
You know, and being able to do that in a quickly, timely manner and get through it and, you know, feel like you've provided value, because that's the other thing is I really want to make sure that, I don't know, my community feels like I'm solving problems to make life better for them.
For sure.
Let's speak about your community. The hat that you have on, First Flip Challenge. Tell us about that.
Oh gosh, yeah. So this actually didn't exist.
Yeah, when did it start? Yeah,
go ahead. It didn't exist not even a year ago.
Like, wow.
This is where you learn how to do backflips, right?
Yes, totally.
First flip?
Now.
In 90 days.
In 90 days, yeah. Exactly.
It's been 45 years. I haven't done one backflip.
I'm not doing one backflip. No backflips.
No backflips. But no, it was interesting because we've been doing real estate for a long time, my husband and I, and we've fixed and flipped now over 250 homes. It's like 263 now. And we're like, okay, brick and mortar, we've done it. We've done apartments, we've done commercial, we've done pretty much every part of real estate you can imagine. And then our strategy was for every third or fourth fix and flip we would do, we would take that money and go buy some type of subject to rental. And so we have rentals across the nation. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. So.
And this was years ago before this last. Okay.
Yeah. So this was about 9 years ago now. And I honestly were just like kind of bored.
It's all right.
We kind of like bored and we're like, okay, now what? You know, we kind of done the real estate game we felt like. And it was like, well, what's next? We obviously could open up a fund and do some kind of crazy, scenario with the fund. And then we really thought about it and we're like, what do we love? What are the things that wake us up in the morning? And both of us just love educating. We love teaching and training and more importantly, watching someone like this specific podcast and why you probably created it was to watch an entrepreneur change their mindset.
Sure.
Watch that person get that light switched where they're like, wait, I didn't know I could do this. I didn't know that I could literally be the left-hand turn in my family's projection. Like I had no idea that, and real estate is the fastest way. I think you can do that.
Yeah. I've
been in a lot of sales industries and for sure it definitely can climb you out real fast. It can bury you fast too if you don't know what you're doing. But real fast. So get educated. But we honestly were just like, well, we have a system. We scaled to up to like 25 fix and flips at the same time. And we're just like, well, we have it so dialed in. Why wouldn't it would be almost rude not to share it with people?
Sure.
Because people were reaching out to us constantly because our brand was flipping with Mitch and Maeli. And so people would be like, how do I do that? How do I do that? And we'd be like, good luck. I don't have the time, I don't have the time to teach you. And so then we're like, let's revamp that actually. And so we did create a course and we have all the training and systems and tools and resources to help everybody get into their first real estate deal in 90 days. But more importantly, the thing that I didn't know would exist. So we were whiteboarding this time last year. We were, I have a huge whiteboard in my office and we're just whiteboarding all over. And finally it was like, that's it. It's actually the community. It's not me, not Mitch. It's not the education, although those are all great things. It's actually boots on the ground, somebody hand holding you in the field. Yeah. Because I feel like that's where I learned the most, even in door to door. That's where I learned the most. I don't care what industry. If somebody was willing to take the time to be like, you're my accountability partner to hold me like accountable to my goals and my dreams. Like somebody's there being like, did you do your work? Did you actually do your KPIs?
Yeah,
that's actually
that level of consistency is what will take you from where you were to where you're going for sure.
Yeah. That's what my buddy Pace Morby says with his group. I mean, everything kind of comes up like where they help. There's other, I think he calls them lieutenants or something in different areas. They're helping more as he built it. More and more people just start helping people. And for his sake, the better deals even come up to him. They need a little bit more help.
Yeah. But the community becomes its kind of own, it grows its own legs.
Right.
Yeah. We've talked about that a little bit. It's pretty cool. So I mean, amazing success that we're seeing. And as we watch you're pretty available on social media. You guys post a lot. So if you look up, where do we?
First Flip Challenge. Yeah.
First Flip. Okay. So there you go.
Challenge,
so
on Instagram, it's just your First Flip Challenge.
Yep. There you go.
We'll put the information in the description too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Amazing to hear your story. Awesome to see you go from where you came from to where you are. And it'll be exciting to see where you head for the next few years. So appreciate you being on here.
Yeah. Thanks, Maeli. Well, until next time, invest in your future.
Invest in yourself.
This is the Flat Bill Investors Podcast signing off.